Hey there, welcome back. I've got a really special treat for you today. Founder and CEO of Mac's List, the Mac Prichard, is here to chat with us. He is the host of the Find Your Dream Job podcast and has been providing weekly career advice for the last 10 years. He knows what it takes to get hired because he has interviewed over 500 hiring experts. And today, he and I are going to talk about networking. Let's get into it.
I think the most important thing to remember is that we're all going to change jobs 5, 7, maybe 10 times in the 40 years each of us will likely spend in the workplace. And I've certainly had this experience. I expect your listeners have too. When we get that job, we think, oh, what a relief. I don't have to keep looking for work. Now I can stop networking and I can just focus on the position that I've just secured. And you should focus on, especially that first 6 months of making a good impression and solving the problems the employer asked you to address. But you also need to remember that it's not a life sentence. You will likely move on in 3, 5, 7 years, either internally through promotions, or you'll leave that organization. So you got to keep your network alive and continue to serve it. It's also important, Patricia, to remember how hiring works. And referrals are so important when employers are considering candidates. You're going to likely change jobs frequently or regularly throughout your career. Referrals are a great way to get your next job, and networking is how you make it happen.
This is great because it reminds me of the term eternal job searcher not long ago, right? And that it's something that I think used to not be as necessary as it is in today's market. And so now with the industry, every industry really is changing so rapidly that we just always have to have something out there ready to go. Some connections, some people who are going to help us understand what's going on at the time. And part of that relates to the hidden job market and the fact that some of us maybe you're listening right now and you're thinking, well, that's sort of a myth. And in your book, you share specifically that the hidden job market is not a myth. Could you share just a little bit about that?
Sure. For the hidden job market, as listeners may know, these are the positions that aren't advertised on job boards like the one I run. I'm based in Portland, Oregon, and Mac's List serves employers and job seekers in Oregon and Washington State. We're what's called a niche job board. There are lots of estimates out there about what percentage of jobs might not get advertised, whether the number is 10%, 30, or 40%. You want to make sure that you're aware of those positions when you are looking for work, and networking is a great way to uncover them. And I would challenge your listeners to reflect on the hiring they've done in their own careers. There are reasons why you might not post a job where you work, and that's what drives the hidden job market.
So knowing that it's so important to continue job searching and then also to tap into this hidden job market, I know that you've got some tips on networking and some strategies. What would be the first thing you would recommend?
The first thing I think would be recognize that you do need to keep your network alive while you're in your current position. And I think one of the great ways to do that is to join the local chapter of your professional association. Whatever your occupation, there's a group that brings together people who do what you do. And they often have monthly meetings, maybe an annual conference locally. By attending those meetings and volunteering, you will meet not only your peers, but the leaders in your field. And it's a great way to not only grow relationships with people you might already know in your occupation, but to build new connections and new relationships. And often those chapters, those professional groups are where hiring managers look first when they're considering filling jobs, whether they're advertised or publicly posted.
So as you're listening, if you're here having this chat with us and you're thinking, I know of my professional organization, I didn't realize it was so valuable. This is your nudge to start getting involved, join a group, whether it's virtual or in person. It doesn't have to take up, all the time involved in a commute and an on-campus or on-site event. You can join online events and meet other people to start taking advantage of this first strategy. So thank you for sharing that, Mac.
Yeah, and when you do that research, look at the board of directors of that the local chapter or maybe their advisory committees. And you'll see that many of them are likely from organizations where or employers where you're interested in working or you want to learn more about them. And certainly when that employer posts a job, apply online. Again, because referrals are so important and connections matter, if you've already met those leaders at the monthly luncheon or the annual conference or maybe a virtual event, they're much more likely to take time to meet with you and talk to you about your application or even tell you about opportunities before they're advertised.
Yeah, that's exactly what, we were talking about when you mentioned the hidden job market is being able to know what's coming down the pipeline, not because it's intentionally hidden, but because it just hasn't, surfaced to the top. It hasn't surfaced to get onto the job boards because they want to see who's there, who's available, who's someone that they already know for a position that hasn't actually made it all the way through the process.
I'm glad you brought that up. And there's another factor to consider, and that's why do employers rely on referrals and not post jobs publicly? It's because hiring is a risky business, and we've all been part of hiring decisions that didn't work out. It's not good for the candidate, it's not good for their colleagues or for the employer. And so the way employers try to manage risk and reduce risk in hiring is they turn to referrals. They ask employees to recommend others. And that word of mouth is so powerful. And networking can help you create that word of mouth in your favor.
That's such an important part of the conversation that there's another side to the table, right? When you are stressing out about what position, what application should I apply for? What's the right move for me? The hiring leader is also going to sleep with a different potential nightmare, right? Of, am I going to hire the right person? And I want someone that I know and that someone else has vouched for. And so that makes it really, really important. So thank you so much for opening up this potential strategy. What would you say is another great strategy or another great way to network in the job search?
Well, in addition to joining the local chapter of your professional group, you're likely, once you get settled in your position, to get requests from others for informational interviews or maybe introductions to people that you are connected with on LinkedIn. Make time to do this. And the reason to do it, Patricia, is because good networkers not only ask for help when they're looking for their next opportunity, but good networkers also serve others. And you never know where someone you help might end up. And you should just do it because it's not only the right thing to do, but it's going to be good for your career. So make time to take meetings with job seekers, make those introductions. People will remember your help.
Oh, this is great. It kind of applies the law of reciprocity,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
You talk more about that because it's an
Yeah, well,
important principle.
it's this idea that when you ask someone about their life or you help someone, right, you bring value to someone's life, then they feel this connection because you've helped them. And so now they want to help you. And so whether you're in a networking conversation and you ask how someone else is instead of waiting for your turn to give your elevator pitch, right? You ask them, how are you? What kind of jobs are you looking for? Or what's your next step? Who can I connect you with? Inevitably there'll come a moment where that person will say, well, enough about me, like tell me about you, right? And the same seems to be true with, when someone asks you for a one-on-one to learn about a particular field. Sometimes this thought could pass our minds as humans to think, oh, well, I already have the job I need and this person would be technically under me, right? You just don't know, number one, how you can help somebody, like truly change someone's life. And then number two, you never know how one day they're going to know someone or they're going to be in a position that could also be helpful for you. So it's not just serving of others and it's not just self-serving. It's like an interconnected way of thinking.
Yeah, it's so important, and I think it's also important to remember that when we help others, we usually feel good about that experience. So we're benefiting from it as well in getting a sense of well-being.
Oh, absolutely. And that's so crucial right now where there's so much stress in the work environment. It just adds a bit of life to it. Well, what else do you think, Mac? Like what from your perspective, what would be a really great way that maybe some of us aren't thinking of?
Well, another networking tip I'd like to share is the importance of volunteering, especially in your profession. So you can join your local chapter of your professional group or maybe it's just something you're excited about. A couple of things happen, Patricia. One is you're doing work that you enjoy. So when you do that, you're going to be showing your best self, and people are going to see you doing something that you not only like, but you're thriving in. And it's also a great way to meet other people and to build relationships and to show people what you can do. And you're going to make not only professional connections, but friendships as well. And to your point earlier, you never know where someone you meet might end up. So you should do this because you enjoy the work, and there might be professional benefits, but it gets you out of the office or wherever your workplace might be and helps you grow your community and your professional network.
Absolutely. It reminds me, those moments, somebody said it a couple days ago. I was listening, I think, to a podcast or a video, and they were saying the best moments happen on your drive or in the bathtub, right? While you're showering or while you're driving, neither of which are moments where you can stop and write this creative idea. And when we think of volunteering, some of what you mentioned comes to mind, that you're in a completely different environment. And so you get to use different skills, think differently about your work, and it might even spark some creativity about the work that you do get paid for, right? And so it's helpful in a lot of ways to volunteer.
And there are many ways you can do it if you want to move up professionally. There might be a
Mm.
conference in your field that's happening in your community, and you can also sign up for a committee, but you'll not only get to do work you enjoy, you'll get to meet people that you might not otherwise cross paths with. And those connections can take you in all kinds of ways and in directions that you didn't expect.
Oh, that's sometimes we think that something that is serving other people doesn't have a strategy to it, but you added a layer of strategy in there to help other people, but also be able to look long term at kind of where do you want to build community. So that's great.
And a final point about volunteering, there might be some field or skill that you don't have experience in, and you want to make a mid-career change, or you want to explore the idea of working in that field or learning and mastering that skill. Volunteering gives you an opportunity to do that.
Mm.
Maybe your background is in photography and you want to improve your writing skills. You can sign up to help with a newsletter or a website or other content creation. And you not only create a portfolio, it connects you with people who can see the work that you're doing, and they may consider hiring you to do that work in the future if that's the direction you choose to go. Maybe you want to work for a nonprofit and you've been working exclusively in the private sector. By volunteering to be on a nonprofit board or to help with a project or an event for a nonprofit, you'll again make valuable connections and create a portfolio that shows what you can do. And you'll also find out if that's the world you want to be in.
What a great way to learn through experience while also giving back and also, learning about a potential new field.
Well, I know we've talked about the importance of professional groups and informational interviews and volunteering. A fourth networking tip I'd add that people should consider when they're not looking for work is going to conferences. And we've all got these events that they might happen nationally, regionally, or locally for our field. And these are gathering places for the people that we not only work with, but those we might hope to work with one day. And as I mentioned at the start, I run a job board. I talk to job seekers almost every day, and when I ask them about their goals, I always talk about target employers, and usually people have a pretty good list of employers that they're interested in working for. But when I ask them who they're talking to, uh, I'm in Portland, Oregon, say at Nike if that or Adidas if that's where they want to work, they say they don't know anyone. And going to conferences in your field, in this case, it would be sports apparel. If that's the world you want to work in or you're working in, you will meet those people there. They'll be in the hallway. They'll be speaking at workshops or from the stage. But once they step off the stage, there are opportunities to connect and talk with them. And conferences are a great way to make that happen.
Oh, absolutely. Being in person. There's something about being in person that it just feels rare sometimes nowadays, right? So being able to do that is helpful.
It is, and I think people are getting out a lot more. There are certainly virtual events are are still present, but I would say the majority of professional events now are happening in real life. And I think it's because you get a connection and the opportunity to build relationships in person that you just don't get through a Zoom call.
Yeah, it's just not the same. It's not the
Yeah,
same.
yeah,
Well, I know we can go on with tips for a very long time because you've got so many, especially in
yeah.
your book, Land Your Dream Job Anywhere. But if you were to share one final one, what would be the tip you would leave us with?
It would be don't wait to be picked. And we talked about networking and how to do it tactically. But to your point earlier about job search, I think that yes, the economy is different than it was a generation or two ago. But whatever the state of the economy, people who have successful careers and find rewarding jobs, they take charge of their job search and their career. And they do that by being clear about what they want, Patricia. They have clear goals about the position that they're interested in and short list of target employers. And they do look at job boards like mine, or Indeed, or LinkedIn, both fine sites, but they don't spend most of their time looking at online postings and applying for jobs. They focus on what they're good at and where they want to go. And because they do that, because they're not waiting to be picked, and they've got a goal and a strategy for getting there, they're having much more rewarding careers, and they're using networking throughout their career to make that happen.
Mm. So again, it's coming back to that strategy where you said at the beginning of the conversation, oftentimes it can be tempting to get into a job and think, I've made it. Now I can
Right.
focus on this work, right? Versus being more strategic.
Exactly. And I would encourage every listener, and I've had this experience early in my career too. I get a position, I think, oh, that's great. Now I don't have to worry about looking for a job for 3, 5, 7 years. Well, you shouldn't be looking for a job after you land your new one, but you should always be out there thinking, again, taking charge of your career, thinking about where you want to go next, going to the places and connecting with the people who interest you and are part of the world where you want to either remain or go next. And if you make those small investments, and it could just be 30 minutes, an hour a week, it's going to pay so many dividends down the road. And we didn't talk rather about LinkedIn, but I would say quickly, everybody needs to be on LinkedIn 15 to 30 minutes a week. You always have to keep your page up to date, and you should be commenting on other people's posts or contributing content yourself. You don't have to be there every day, but you'll not only learn from others by engaging on LinkedIn when you are ready to look for your next opportunity, when recruiters and employers will go straight to your LinkedIn page. And when they see that you've left a long and robust uh, digital footprint there that shows you are interested and engaged in the work you do, that's going to make you stand out from your competitors.
What a great perspective to have. It's a cadence. It's a, like people say, it's kind of like part of a lifestyle as opposed to an action you take in a one moment, right?
And and it's done in a strategic, thoughtful way. And it starts with being clear about where you want to go next in your career or what you're interested in exploring and focusing on those occupations and those employers and that field that both excites and energizes you and allows you to do your best work.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I know there's so much more that we can cover, but at the same time, as we wrap up this episode, what final thought or encouragement, moral of the story would you leave us with?
I think if you understand how hiring works, you can make hiring work for you. And I encourage listeners to recognize the power of referrals and to think about their own experience in hiring and what a difference recommendations from peers and others made when making hiring decisions. So when you understand that, it brings purpose to your networking, and you think, okay, I need to be of service to others. I need to volunteer. I need to be connecting with people in my field. But why? Because these relationships will help me make the connections and get the recommendations I need to move ahead in my career to the places where I've identified I want to go.
Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, You should know that it is one of the best podcasts in the career space. And so, Matt, can you share a little bit about both the podcast and also all the other spaces where we can find you and benefit from your work?
I've hosted a weekly career advice podcast now for almost 10 years. It's called Find Your Dream Job. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts. Every week, I talk to a different career expert about the nuts and bolts of job search, and we get pretty granular about it. As you know, Patricia, you were a guest. But we do it because our listeners come to us for practical, actionable advice about how to move ahead in their job search and in their careers. And I've done more than 500 interviews now and have learned so much from you and our other guests. In addition, I run a job board based in Portland, Oregon called maxlist.org. We have a fair number of remote positions, but most of them are in Oregon and Washington, hybrid jobs. But even if you're not interested in working in the Pacific Northwest, you'll find just a wealth of educational resources on the site, hundreds of articles, several online courses, podcast interviews, all free that will help you learn and improve your job search skills.
Wonderful. And you do have to go on to that website. It is an absolute treasure trove of information. Again, the podcast is fantastic. I listen to it myself on a weekly
Oh, thank
basis.
you.
So,
And I would add just quickly, connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you do reach out, or when you do rather, please mention that you heard me on Patricia's show.
yes, let them know Patricia sent me over. And again, thank you so much, Mac, for joining us today. And if you're listening, thanks again for being here with us. Know that we were cheering you on, and we'll see you on the next one. Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's conversation between Mac and I, then you're probably going to enjoy heading over to the Find Your Dream Job podcast, episode 493, when he and I talk about why you keep taking the wrong job. The original air date was March 19, 2025, but it's still there on the website and on the podcast. I'm going to go ahead and drop a link in the description. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you on the next one.